Hi, this is Don with Ridge Engineering. In this tutorial, I'm going to give you an introduction to the new mapping feature that we've added to PC Warrants version 2. I'm going to show you how to add studies to a map, work in the map, and then how to print or create an image of the maps that you've created. The first question, though, might be, why would I want to use maps with PC Warrants? Because PC Warrants up to this point has pretty much been a one location, one study, and not much else. But we've recently added another feature called the study score, which is a way of giving a score to every study, a number, so that you can prioritize your intersections. Say you have a dozen intersections that meet the warrants. How do you decide which one should get the money to be upgraded? Right now, you may have a process for that, but we've created a system in the software to rank each study. And when we started playing with that, we ended up with a screen like this, which is a summary of all the studies in a particular folder that you might select. And it occurred to us that it might be nice, once we had this screen, to see where these were on a map. And we talked it over with a few of our customers, and we got enough interest so that we've added a mapping feature to the software so that you could map your studies, and in particular map your studies and show on the map whether the study is met and what the score is, so you can have one piece of paper that has a pretty good summary of all the intersections in an area or in your city or whatever. So there is a separate tutorial that explains this score feature that's been added to the software. So if you haven't seen that yet, take a look at that after you've watched this tutorial. All right, let's go back to maps. Now I'm going to show you what the maps look like, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to map all of the studies in the current folder. Now there's only 8 or 9 in this one, just for testing purposes and showing, and for this tutorial. You might have a lot more, of course. So it takes a few seconds to populate the screen. But this is a map of Hillsborough County in Florida, which is where Tampa is located and where our offices are located. And you can get these maps free from the U.S. Census Bureau. Now there's another tutorial that explains how to download the maps from the U.S. Census Bureau. They have a website just for that. You download the maps, and then you have to go through a process of creating the map project files, and that tutorial explains how to do that. I didn't include it here because I just want this tutorial to be just on the mapping. So normally you would install PC Warrants, and then you would download the maps for the county or counties that you're interested in, create the map projects, and then once everything is done, you're ready to actually see a map. When you get to the map, you'll see in this case it's the entire county, so it's from a zoomed out state. And you can see where all the studies are, and it's a little bit of a mess because it's a big county and the studies tend to overlap. But there are ways of moving around on the map, and if you're not used to GIS software, then it'll take you a few minutes to learn how to move around. But if you are, it's pretty much the same with most software. First of all, you can zoom in using these buttons, and you can zoom out. Okay, you can also, in the upper left hand corner, there are some icons. There's one that looks like a magnifying glass. If you use that, if you hold the left mouse button down and then drag the mouse, you'll see it creates a rectangle. That's called a bounding box. And then if you let go of the mouse, the map will redraw itself around the boundaries of that bounding box. So that's a good way to zoom in to a very specific part of the map. There's also a little icon with a little hand on it. That's for panning. And panning means dragging the map around. And what you do is you hold the left-hand mouse button down and then just drag the mouse. And when you do that, the map goes with you. And when you let go of the mouse, the screen redraws. And it's very easy to move a little bit one way or another with the panning with the hand. And so it'll only take you a few minutes to get used to moving around the map. Now as you zoom in closer, you'll see right now all we can see are some of the major streets on the map. But if I zoom in, all of a sudden the local streets will pop up. So that's a feature of the map. As when you get in closer, you'll see more detail, and when you zoom out, it collapses back to the major arterials and the freeways, so that otherwise the whole map becomes very, very messy. Now once you have your map set up the way you want it, you can snap an image of the map to use in a report or in a for whatever purposes you need. At the moment, we don't have any formal reports added to the software for these maps. We may add that at a later date. Right now we just have a mechanism for you to create image files that then could be imported into a report very easily. Now there's two different options for snapping an image file. One is called Snap the Screen Image, and if you click on this button, you'll get an image that's exactly what you see on the screen. No more and no less. And it looks sort of like this. So this is an image, and this is one that I snapped earlier, and you can see the icons there, and so this would make a nice little, if you add this to a report, it would look okay. Now the Snap GIS image is a slightly different way of getting the image, and it uses some routines that are in the GIS software that we use to write all this stuff. And it gives you more options. For one thing, you can set the dots per inch of the image file, the DPI, and this little drop-down box gives you some options. And here are a few options. Here's what they look like. So here's one with the DPI set to 300. So that's a lot of dots, and you get a nice, a very detailed looking map. Pretty much of what the screen looks like. You can see that the icons are a little smaller than on the screen, but you get a nice looking map. That's at 300. Now this is 150, and you can see that it's a little bit more, all the features are a little bit smaller, but there's more, a little bit more detail in there. But it's pretty much, a similar looking thing. But if you go to 96, this is what you get. Now, to me, this is counterintuitive, because this is 96 DPI, and you might think that at 96 DPI you would get less detail than at 300, but it seems to work the other way. And maybe somebody can explain that to me, because it's a little bit confusing to me. But this is what you get. You get not only the major streets, but you get a view of the local streets as well. And it's a little bit harder to see where the studies are. Same area, same data per se, but this might, you can zoom in on this. If I zoom in, you can see that it's readable, and that would print out pretty much the same way. But so you have options. That's the main thing, and we're not sure which one people will prefer. So we're leaving both in there for now. So you can create a map, get your studies lined up, and then snap an image and see how it looks. Now, these numbers in yellow below the icons is the score of the study if this score feature is enabled in the software. If it's not enabled in the software, because you don't have to use it if you don't want to, then it just shows the number of the study relative to the list that's in the folder. So, but these numbers sometimes are not exactly where you might want them to be because they might be obscuring a street name that you think is important or something. None of these. Well, here's one down here. So if I wanted to clean that up a little bit, I can change to the pointer, select that study. When I select that study, first of all, I see the point stats for that particular study. It shows the name, the number of warrants that are met. The color of the icon tells me if the warrant is met or not. Green is it's met, red it's not. And then it shows the street names and the latitude and longitude. And if I want to, I can move this icon. Say it's not really, whoever put it there didn't really put it exactly the right spot. I can move it just by clicking on the move button. The icon changes to a plus. Just click on the new spot and you can move it. We'll move it back because that's really where it belongs. And oop, that's a bug. So that shouldn't still be visible. I need to clean that up. Okay, now this study is highlighted. Say I didn't like the fact that this 46 is blocking that State Highway 585. You can't see what I'm doing, but I'm pressing the arrow keys on my keyboard, and if I press the up key, it moves the score to the top, left moves it to the left, right moves it to the right. Okay, so say I'd rather have it up here, so I can just do that, and then I can snap my image and have State Highway 585 a little bit easier to read. So you can move the scores around if you want to. Okay, so now let me show you how to add a study to a map. You may have some PC Warrants versions 1 studies that you want to use with the mapping, or you may create a new study in PC Warrants version 2. Let me show you how that all works. So let's open an existing study, and I have a study that I'm going to pretend is an old study. It has no GIS in it, so no GIS information. So I'm going to select that, and I could either click the map at this point, or I can click the map in the site data screen. This is when you're creating a new study. Typically you create you import your volumes from some source like a PetroProfile, whatever, and then you go into the site data screen and fill out some of this stuff, enable whatever warrants you want for this particular study, and you'll be reminded that, okay, if we're using the mapping, then we're going to want to have to add the latitude and longitude. I don't know those off the top of my head, so you click on the map button, and that loads the map, and it shows the entire county because it doesn't know where else to show. And so what you do is you can zoom into a specific spot. Let's just say it's over in here somewhere, and I'm assuming that you know your own county, you know where the streets are. Let's pretend that this study was done right at the intersection of these two roads. Now, you also will have clues because the major approach name might be there and the minor approach name might be there. And so at some point we will probably try to add a feature where the software will look at these two fields, these names, and then try to find that spot on the map. We've been playing with that. It's hit or miss right now, so at the moment we don't have it enabled, but if we get it better, we'll turn it on. So at the moment you have to go find your own spot, and I'm just grabbing an arbitrary study and picking an arbitrary intersection, so the names aren't going to match, but just pretend that they do. So once I say, okay, there's my intersection, I'm going to click the Add button, which turns the icon into a cross, a plus sign. Then just move it to the intersection and press the button. And it adds an icon, and you can see that this study has a score of 38, and the warrant is met. And then up here you can see number of warrants met, 1. So it's just that simple. So you find the spot of that intersection on the map, you add it, and then you exit, and now the latitude and longitude are in there, and everything else it's happy with. So I'm going to go OK. And now you still have to remember to save this study, because the study doesn't have that, doesn't automatically save, just in case you change your mind or something. So now we're just going to call this one, let's see, I used that one already. So it has GIS, and I'm going to save it, and it's yes. So it's just that simple to add a study. And now if you open some arbitrary study and you're curious where this is, you can just click on the map, and it'll pop up the map, center it on that street. So this is Bush Boulevard and 56th Street, although you can't quite see that on the labels right now, but that's what it is. And so you can take a look and see where it is. And we'll probably add a button for clicking on it to open up Google Earth at this location. We have that feature in PC Travel, on our other software that uses maps. So we'll probably bring that feature over to this in a future update. But at the moment, you just see where it's located on this particular map. Okay, so that's pretty much how you can move around the map. You can add a study to the map, and remember, probably the main application is going to be when you look at your score stats, and you've got all of your scores, and you can remember, you'll learn that you can sort this by your score, and then you may want to just map it, and it'll go right to the map, and it'll add those studies. It'll take a few seconds, and if you've got a lot of studies, it may take a little while, but within a few seconds you'll have your studies up on the screen. You can zoom in, play around with it, and then create image files for your reports. Okay, so that's the mapping. It's very new for us, and so if you have any comments, suggestions, complaints, whatever about the mapping, please let us know, and I'm sure the software will be tweaked and modified to make it even more useful over the next few months. Thanks a lot.